Hi all, my name is Tommy Harstrom. I'm the Analytics Director at Forest Grove Technology. Forest Grove is an Australian company and we operate mainly out of Perth in Western Australia, but we also have consultants in Melbourne and Brisbane. We are a specialist consulting firm that delivers end-to-end finance transformation and data analytics solutions. And we have, over the last 2 decades, been partnering with some leading technologies to help our customers succeed through data-driven solutions. And KNIME is one of them. Since partnering with KNIME more than 10 years ago, we are Australia's only distributor of KNIME's commercial offering, KNIME Business Hub. We also do our best to facilitate the local community, the KNIME community. We consider ourselves very lucky at Forest Grove because we get to work with some very innovative clients. Clients that develop creative and sometimes groundbreaking use cases leveraging KNIME as a core component. One of those clients is MLG. MLG is a remarkable story emerging out of Western Australia, founded in 2002 with its debut on the Australian Stock Exchange 2021. MLG is a mining services and resource asset management company. They operate out of Western Australia, or in Western Australia, and Northern Territory, where they provide customized solutions for mining operations. As you can see in this video, MLG operates in some seriously remote locations. Northern Territory is abbreviated NT. Some people jokingly say it stands for nothing there. I think it's a bit harsh, but there's no doubt that there are locations in Western Australia and Northern Territory that are about as remote as it gets. A key part of MLG's success is their ability to roll with industry challenges, making use of leading technologies, and KNIME has been an important part of that journey for the last 3 to 4 years. They started with the KNIME server, and we recently had the pleasure to help them migrate over to KNIME Business Hub. With me today, I have Rhys Meakins, Head of Technology at MLG. Rhys, we've been working with you and MLG for 4 years, and it's been a great partnership. Can you tell us what led you to choose KNIME and what outcomes you've seen from working with KNIME and Forest Grove?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that warm introduction, Tommy, and it's an absolute pleasure to be here in Germany. This is the first country I've visited as a teenager, kind of the first big trip abroad without my parents. So this country does hold a special place in my heart. I will apologise, though, to the German people for not speaking your language. I tried to learn it back in 2004 by watching MTV when we were here in Germany. And for those who can remember what was popular in 2004 for some unknown reason, was this guy. And that was a strange cultural experience because things take a while to get to Australia, and we landed in Germany and the crazy frog was everywhere. I thought, who are these people and what is this frog? And fortunately it did land in Australia not that long after, but the extent of my German is limited to Der bekloppte Frosch auf dein Handy from Z, SMS B1, B2, B3 oder B4, which is not particularly relevant. It's not particularly relevant. The crazy frog, I suppose, represented a form of digital transformation, you know, from sort of bog stock ringtones to polyphonic at a point in time. Unfortunately, he was disrupted. So the less we talk about that, the better. But I'm left with only really being able to order probably between 1 and 10 beers and 1 and 10 lobsters. That's about all I've got left. So 8 Hummer und 8 Bier bitte. That's the extent. Anyway, why did we choose to go with KNIME was Tommy's actual question. I just want to delve into a little bit about MLG beyond what Tommy said around the sort of who we are and what we offer, but some of the kind of history and the cultural elements of the business. We've been around for more than 20 years and a very long history of private ownership. We are fortunate that we have a really strong culture and very low staff turnover. But that does create some challenges for digital transformation, for the way a business understands itself and what it can get out of data. Also, having one shareholder means you only have one person to worry about the bottom line. So our managing director, our sole shareholder and our founder was very clear that his operational managers had to deliver for their clients. Don't worry about profitability, that's my problem. Rapid growth of operations. MLG, in the 4 years that I have been with the business, has doubled its revenue. It's doubled its headcount. When I started, we had 650 staff. We now have 1,400. The revenue has grown 30% year on year, compounded annually between 2018 and the conclusion of the last financial year. So we have a huge degree of growth in a very short space of time. As a result of that, the information architecture couldn't keep pace. The profit that we're making has to go back to fund that growth. So we've got pressure to maintain margins, and we've got small back office teams trying to feed this beast, this ever-hungry operational beast. And then finally, we saw it in the video, very dispersed, very remote geography. Tommy was very unkind about our friends in the Northern Territory, but these are some of the most remote places in the world, and really, I'm not a fan of Elon Musk's politics, but up until his Starlink product, we haven't been able to get reliable comms out to these areas. So siloed operations breed siloed data, and it breeds a culture of self-reliance. If you know you can only rely on a spreadsheet, that's kind of what you have to do. So KNIME became a really obvious choice for us. We had a small team. I knew that I would have to do a fair amount of ETL pipeline development. I know a little bit of Python, a little bit of VBA, no SQL, no nothing else. So we implemented KNIME by starting with a small-scale proof of concept. We used the analytics platform on my local PC with the help of some of Tommy's team. I think Tommy's not cheap, but that was a pretty cheap proof of concept. And with the result of that, we're able to put a GET request into the ELT to be able to get approval to buy the server. So from October 2021, we were good to go, building a number of ETL pipelines, aggregating our data and serving it to our users in Power BI.
That's great. So I understand MLG bought KNIME initially as an ETL tool, and we at Forest Grove, we use KNIME for a lot of ETL work as well, and machine learning and AI projects, of course, but what we love about KNIME is data apps. We use data apps for, well, if you can use data apps anywhere, we will definitely put a data app there, processing our internal processes, but also for fun stuff. For example, every year when Melbourne Cup, which is one of the largest horse races in the world, that's going on, we use the data app to allocate all the horses to the staff in our internal sweepstake. Is it true that it was that app that sparked your interest in data apps and made you start thinking about how can we use data apps at MLG?
Yeah, look, I'm probably not proud to say that a gambling app was the catalyst for some digital transformation, but given that Australians spend more on gambling per capita than I think any other country in the world, maybe rivaling the US, that's probably not, unsurprising. We saw a demo or a webinar from two of your colleagues, Tommy, and that sort of sparked a question in me around how we could use KNIME a little bit differently. It's up on the screen. We've got pressure to maintain margins. We're trying to do a lot with very little in our IT team. So rather than try to solve some problems by investing in other applications, by looking at low-code, no-code development platforms, OutSystems, Power BI, Power Automate, Power Apps, why don't we use the thing that we've got? So that prompted a conversation with Forest Grove's then Managing Director, Murray. Murray's been a trusted advisor to me for probably 12, 13 years. And Murray's response to everything is, oh yeah, you can do that in KNIME. It's like, I need a cup of coffee. Yeah, you can do it in KNIME. Oh, by the way, you forgot your anniversary. KNIME's taking care of a present for you for your wife. Oh, no, thanks, Murray. And then it's up to Tommy to have to implement the solution.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to hear that. So we hope that the presentation today will make you all start thinking a little bit about how you can use data apps in your organization. So show us what you got, Rhys.
Yeah, so I'll just start with where we were, and I'm horrified to present this, but we're talking about our daily production. So these are our physicals. As we saw in that video, I'll kind of limit the scope of this discussion to our haulage business, but we get paid to move rocks from point A to point B. So we saw the loader loading the road train and then that material making its way to its final destination. Up until we introduced a KNIME process, those physicals were being recorded in Excel with one spreadsheet for every site operation, approximately 30 spreadsheets. They also contain the rate card and any relevant master data, so truck identifiers, other asset identifiers, people who are allocated to site. All of this is being manually maintained, and the usual sort of data integrity issues that I'm sure everyone in this room is familiar with. In classic fashion, Excel is all things to all people, inputs and outputs. So it provides our daily reporting to our clients that helps them understand what's happening in their business. It provides an invoice at the end of the month to get signed off and enter into our ERP. And to a degree, it gives us operational reporting. But at that point, we had no consolidated view of the business. So having installed the KNIME server, we set about trying to aggregate those 30 spreadsheets in around about January 2022. We tried that for a few weeks. We had some success, but found that the usual spreadsheet issues were just too great. We weren't going to get the benefits that we needed, and we had to do something differently. So that prompted the chat with Murray and the team at Forest Grove, and off the back of that, our senior IT engineer, Rhys, he started building a series of workflows, some of which are sort of back of house, if you will, most of which, though, we then packaged up as data apps and provided to our end users for data entry. Very impressed with how quickly we were able to deploy that solution, from kind of an ideation to our first site going live was only 4 months. Rhys is an IT systems engineer. Rhys is not a developer by trade, a very smart young man and very capable, but that's not what he's there to do. He's not a data analyst. He's taken to KNIME, like everyone in this room would have, but Rhys is not a full-time resource dedicated to this project. So we had him, we had a data entry clerk assisting us, and me, who was probably just getting in the way more than actually helping. So without a dedicated team, we were able to build this thing in the space of 4 months, which was mind-blowing. So what are we actually talking about? I guess in classic fashion, you replace a spreadsheet with about 10 different technologies. But we start with the setup. So we're drawing our asset and our people information using KNIME to do the ETL from our key business systems. We have KNIME data apps to manage our rate cards, our products, and our subcontractors. Pronto's our ERP system, MicroKeeper our time and attendance and rostering system. So all of that master data is now automatically available, filtered for the relevant site, crucially also helping to maintain integrity in upstream processes. So if we move an asset or we move a person from site A to site B, you have to enforce the process in the source system. And that's been great for us. Our operational team are fantastic. They operate in very challenging conditions. Some of those mine sites in summer are well in excess of 45 degrees centigrade. That's 110, 115 Fahrenheit for the Americans in the audience. Tough conditions. These people are great at what they do, and they're just trying to get the best outcome for our clients. So generally speaking, some of these more hygiene practices fall by the wayside. So we've got a lot more integrity now in that master data, and then we go on to using the data app to capture our physicals, capture our safety data, and capture comments to inform our clients about what's happening on their site every day. And finally, we report. So we're still doing the client reporting that we did previously. We still get an invoice generated from this process at the end to put into the ERP. We now have integrated data quality, data integrity checks, and we're now able to do revenue forecasting. And we have a detailed physical revenue forecasting model being built at the moment. Technology, Profix is our corporate performance management tool, so we're doing our forecasting in there. I'm not proud that I have SSRS on this screen, don't judge me. Power BI is doing most of the dashboarding, and surprise, surprise, we have some KNIME data apps to assist with those data quality checks. So in terms of what the thing looks like, this is an example of one of the different data apps that we've deployed. Sitting behind this, we obviously have a number of widgets and pickers. So we're selecting the site. SQL row-based security means that the user can only see the site they have access to. And then we have a table viewer here that is pre-populated with the master data. So we're selecting our employee, selecting our vehicle. The contract is the relevant billing mechanism. We can then enter in a docket number if that's appropriate. We can see there are some fields that aren't used. Tried to minimise change resistance by making this as close to the original spreadsheet as possible and adaptable for our different site and different client requirements. And then we start entering in the tonnage that we're moving. As we scroll down a bit further, this site also undertakes day works or hourly hire activity. So similarly, we're going to select the shift, select the billing mechanism, the equipment, and key in the units of hour that we're going to bill our client for. So the secret behind all of this is to get that master data, filter it based on the site selection, present it in a hidden row that's sitting, I couldn't even tell you how far off the page, so the end users don't see it, but it allows them to select it from the drop-down list. So it was a fairly clever piece of engineering, but not anything that's particularly complex, and certainly something that anyone could do if they're handy enough with KNIME. One thing I have obfuscated is the actual workflow, because that is incredibly complex. There's a lot of different components to that.
So that's a great use case, Rhys. But what you've done, you've taken a paper-based solution and replaced it with a data entry app solution. Could you not have automated the whole process? There must be a lot of data in those dump trucks that you could get, and also I saw you pushing the data into a SQL database. Why don't you push it into your ERP and use that as a central source of truth for your department?
Yeah, both fair questions. I'll answer your second question first. Why didn't we put it into the ERP? We're dealing with physicals, we're dealing with products and services, rate card, revenue, logical stuff that you'd put into the ERP. If everyone casts their mind back to 2022, we're in the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. Western Australia had very significant border closures. So for anyone who had family and friends in Australia, it was very difficult to visit those people. That meant for us very low mobility of labour. Very, very challenging for us to get people, which drove the price of labour up. Significant supply chain disruptions. The price of diesel was through the roof. So we had to act really quickly to start to understand what was happening in our business on a daily basis. The time it would have taken to work that, to elicit the requirements, structure it into the model required for the ERP, I dare say we'd probably still be working on it. So we're able to push ahead with rapid deployment by doing it in KNIME. I think architecturally, it probably does belong in the ERP or a dedicated transport management system at some point. Where I've conceptualised this, though, is I guess today's digital innovation or transformation is tomorrow's tech debt. At some point, we will unpick this and move to a version 2. We might move to a dedicated app if we have to. But in doing this project, we've elicited the requirements, we've codified our business logic. Now we actually understand this better. So when we go to market, if we have to, it's not going to be a lengthy, drawn-out process. That project will ultimately be more successful for it. And your other question, Tommy, was around digitising a paper-based process. Absolutely. We've taken paper off Excel and put paper into a web app. The beauty of using KNIME for this is the loaders are equipped with an IoT-enabled scale, so we can get those tonnage items directly from the loader. We've done that successfully at one site already. We're going to move that to another site in the near future. A KNIME data app will allow our manager to review the data that comes from the IoT scale, error correct it if they have to, and then commit it to their final report. So the reason for using KNIME is that at the moment, it's a manual entry. When the time's right on a site-by-site basis, we'll plug that into the loader scale API and remove that manual entry screen. So we needed a solution that would kind of grow with us and be adaptable.
Great.
And so look, I think on that note, benefits. One of the tricky things with these kind of projects, one is because we were already paying for KNIME, I didn't have to do a business case. I didn't have to do benefits realisation. It didn't cost us anything other than some internal labour. Most of the benefit we've had from this project has been intangible. Now, our finance team are saving a significant amount of time weekly in maintaining those spreadsheets. Our management team have access to the data. They're not literally calling people to say, how did you go with your production yesterday? So we're estimating a half a day a week in just simply maintaining spreadsheets. Critically, at month end, we have qualified accountants who are saving 3 days a month which is massive. So those invoices are getting out the door, they're getting signed, we're getting the cash flow benefit, and we have qualified accountants freed up to do actual analysis, not just fix a spreadsheet. But the intangible benefits are huge. So the daily visibility of operational performance and the unified data model that we now have is allowing further analysis that someone presumably is doing right now while I'm swanning around Berlin. And the big one was, at that time, as I mentioned, a highly challenging environment. We had competitors who didn't make it to the other side of that COVID-19 pandemic. And we had a lovely shout out in a major West Australian publication. This was a 2 or 3 page spread with our managing director crediting this data app with giving us much greater insight and helping us weather that storm.
That's great. So this was your first step into the world of data apps, and now you have KNIME Hub installed and deployed and you paid for it, kind of. Do you have any other use cases you have implemented or think about implement that will give a quick value for little effort?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to share some sort of generic use cases with everyone in the room, and hopefully these can resonate. Master data management, data governance. Look, for us, we don't have the need to buy a dedicated MDM suite. Someone like Cartier, for example, probably managing a significant amount of inventory, pack sizes, quantity sizes, dimensions, weights. That can justify X $100,000 a year in Innovate or a similar package. For us, it's a bit simpler. So we've been publishing data apps to allow line of business, finance, HR, etc., to do their own data quality checks, to manage master data, map values across multiple systems, taking the onus away from my team and putting that back on the line of business to be able to manage their own data. One of the great integrity checks that we have is a 3-way match between our telemetry system and the configuration that's in the telemetry system with the ERP and the physical GPS location of the asset. So we can see that if an asset has moved site and they haven't let the group asset manager know to update that in those various source systems. So we run a check twice a day to work out where that asset is and is it correctly allocated in the source system. Data capture, we've just seen the table viewer, that speaks for itself. We're still using spreadsheets, but heavily controlled and heavily templated for other use cases. A great example is for purchasing compliance. We have our purchasing team monitoring purchases of sort of generic or miscellaneous items where we have an agreed contracted rate with a supplier. So they have a list that they update, for example, trousers. Could be trousers, they could be pants, they could be high-vis pants. We've got a data dictionary a mile long. They just upload a CSV file to maintain that themselves, taking the onus away from IT. And then finally is for consumption. Dashboarding, the visualizations in KNIME get better and better by the day. At some point, we may probably get rid of Power BI, who knows. The big one, though, is the amount of time you spend making a beautiful dashboard and the first question someone says is, oh, can I have that in Excel? Yeah, you can, but I really wish you'd have told me that 3 days earlier. Data apps are great for just giving the users the ability to filter, sort the data, choose the columns, and then generate their own Excel output. Obviously, I'd love my entire user base on KNIME, but I know realistically we're never going to get there. We have people who are not going to be comfortable with using that. Also, highly beneficial for large data volumes. The amount of times that we kind of struggle with particularly purchasing inventory data in Power BI, handle it in KNIME, give them an Excel extract in a data app.
That's great. Thanks, Rhys. That's all we had. And any questions?
I think these are the right ones for you guys. Yes, but before I hand them over, let's look for questions. The damage is done, Rhys. For the rest of my life, I will think of the crazy frog when I think of you.
I'm sorry for that.
I love that one. Okay. Is everybody still awake? Yeah, I see heads nodding. Questions? online, maybe?
There's someone over there.
Over there.
Thanks for the very interesting talk. And I have an anniversary coming up, so I need to connect to your colleague to give me that data app because I don't know what to gift yet. I see a lot of data input that you're using KNIME for. I see a lot of output, basically dashboarding. Are you also using it to kind of, for like machine learning, for example, for forecasts or similar things? And who do you distribute that to? Who's using that?
Yeah, so we do have, off the top of my head, 2 or 3 workflows currently. There is one that I should be building at some point this week, and I think that's going to depend on how many beers I have tonight. Those are being distributed generally to operational people or finance. The machine learning models that we have in place at the moment are strictly for operations. I had a really interesting thought off the back of the L4 training yesterday for anyone who was in there as to how to then package up the explainable nature of what those models are doing for that audience, particularly for someone like me who actually can't explain what the model's doing myself. We have packaged up a forecasting model in a data app right now that allows the user to retrain the model and then see the model output along with the coefficient and then determine whether the new output is more reliable or less reliable than the old output, and then make a decision on version A or version B. Look, we're really fortunate actually that Michael and a number of the KNIME team came to Australia 3 or 4 weeks ago. So we've got a little bit of a sneak preview around some of today's content, a bit of a shortened version. Right now, we're running a little bit of a comparison between an OpenAI Hugging Face model and a DeepSeek locally hosted model to then start to build some LLM interactive data apps in the future. So that's going to be super exciting.
Cool.
Yep.
So the question was, who's winning so far in those 3?
Yeah, the DeepSeek installation's been problematic. I suspect that's our fault, not DeepSeek's fault. So at this point, OpenAI ChatGPT is winning the race.
Okay. Any other questions? I'll take a question from the online audience. Where do KNIME ETL jobs run?
They're running on our server. So we have they're running on KNIME Business Hub actually as of this week. So we have a large KNIME server installation. We've just finished our KNIME Business Hub migration. So all of our ETL and all of our data apps are running on our own KNIME server. Mm-hmm. So it's hosted in our own AWS instance.
Okay. I see another hand up there. Martina's coming with the mic.
Hello, awesome presentation, by the way. I have a question about your internal KNIME community. How do you keep them motivated, upskilled? Do you conduct some kind of competitions internally? I'm just curious.
Yeah, when we introduced the product, we did originally. We sort of had like a Friday afternoon hackathon. What tends to happen is then business as usual workload takes over and those nice-to-haves are the first things that fall away. We trained 3 additional KNIME users with the help of some of Tommy's team in January, I think that was. So outside of our core IT team who handle the analytics function, we now have 5 or 6 trained KNIME users. And it's actually a great question because this is what I've been pondering while at this conference is, how do we now re-engage those people and motivate them? The amount of questions we're now getting, particularly on this production data, we've got 2 years of data sitting there. We're getting a lot of questions from the business and I'm just starting to turn around to people and saying, well, just use KNIME. We can install the analytics platform for you and you can start interrogating that database. So I think there's going to be a little bit of carrot, some fun stuff, and a little bit of stick, which is I'm not going to build it for you, you can build it for yourself.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you so much, guys. Great presentation.
Thank you.